Hi there. My name is David Batsoffen and I host a travel blog called Travel and Things. And at the moment, I'm doing a series called In Conversation With. And specifically on Fridays, I look at comedians, not politicians, although they're similar, they're not quite the same. Comedians are funnier, politicians are not meant to be. And today it's once again David versus a Goliath. And today I talk to Nicholas. Nick, how you doing?
Dave, I'm very well, sir. Thank you so much for having me on. Very excited to be here. And I know that you said I shouldn't talk about your radio voice, but that is a beautiful day. I wasn't expecting to go from that to what it went to. Because I also have a radio voice. I also do I don't call it the radio, mine is called the macro voice. And for being here, so happy to be on the show. We can't wait to have some fun with David Batsoffen, which is going to be absolutely amazing. That's me, Nicholas Goliath. David versus Goliath. Yeah.
we know what you did last summer when I was still on radio many years ago, and you get a cold, and I used to do midnight to 4 a.m. So it's that sort of late night stuff.
Yeah.
And then with a cold, your voice drops another octave. So I used to sound like Barry White, and it was lovely. People would call in and say, "Listen, can't you keep the voice? Yeah, can I get rid of the nasal? If I could get rid of the drippy nose and keep the voice, I'd be really ecstatic." So where does lockdown find you, Nick?
Then you could be White Berry. That would be great.
We've got to be so careful. We have to be so careful. Politically correct, non-binary, binary. What do we identify with?
I know everybody is very sensitive about everything. And I just try and steer clear. And I just try and let people know I'm always just going for the joke. That's always my first prerogative, is to say the thing that's funny to me and then think about the consequences out. But I've learned to control myself. 9 years in comedy will teach you how to read a room.
Well, I was about to say 9 years in comedy doesn't sometimes teach you, but then you added the rider to read the room. Because if you open your mouth and your sort of first word is cuck, and you realize that the audience have left the room, you know that you've gone down a road that
you are in cuck.
Then you are in cuck.
You are in cuck with no paddle, like you stuck there. No, it's crazy.
So where does lockdown find you?
Well, I've been locked down at home with my family, my wife and kids.
Right.
My mom and dad live in the cottage at the back with my gran. So yeah, it's been because we locked down probably a week before already.
Okay.
The official start of lockdown. So we on an extra probably 7 days. And
what made you do that?
Crazy. Most of the gigs I was booked for had started cancelling or postponing by that time. We had the Melville Comedy Club, which was still running. We knew that lockdown was kind of coming. And we'd closed the club by that time. We'd closed probably the week before lockdown as well, simply because we could see it was coming and we'd rather just wanted to keep everyone safe. We wanted to be safe. So yeah, now I've been locked down with my family here all the time, just here, just like they're just off camera, right? It's crazy.
So how old are the children?
I got 2 boys, 11 and 6, and it's been interesting because they go to the German school as well,
right?
So because my wife went to the German school, so they now, because of the homeschooling, my wife is teaching German at home, and they do German first language, English second language.
Wow.
Which means all subjects are taught in German. It's the most confusing, ridiculous thing. I speak no German. I can see the question coming.
So they can talk about you and you have no idea what they're saying.
Not a clue. It's a terrifying thing.
Do they point at you and laugh a lot?
No, they don't laugh, actually. They keep telling me how tired they are of my jokes. I'm like, I need a new audience, because they're just like, we've had enough of the dad jokes. Can you stop? Please, can you stop?
A question that I've been asking all my guests is, take me back to Nicholas in matric. What were you like at school? And what did you want to be when you left school?
Yo, David, Nicholas in matric. Yo, I actually get embarrassed about it sometimes when I think about Nicholas in matric. Because I was so, the thing is, I was so blind to the world. Like, I had no idea the potential. I didn't even know what I wanted to be when I left school. I went and studied at Rao back then. It's UJ now. Because I matriculated in 2002. And my mother, colored mother, very, very straightforward. She was like, you're going to study or you're going to work. I knew for one, I did not want to work. That was the last thing on my mind. I was like, I do not want to work. So I went to study. Managed to, I was a pretty lazy student. You know, that kid that does just enough to get through? I was that guy. Like, I never overexerted myself at school, never pushed too hard. Like, when it came to nice times and parties, I was there. But otherwise, I sailed through school. It wasn't like I wasn't a genius, but I understood enough to just be able to study as little as possible and be able to pass the year. That was all. That was my aim, was just to make it through. I didn't care about getting high.
Yeah. Can I put up my hand to that as well? Because my mom handed me all my school reports when I left home back in the 70s. And they all, to each and every single term, say the same thing. David is lazy. He could do better if he tried harder.
He has potential to do better.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Where are you nowadays?
Exactly. What do I need 90% in geography for? Exactly. Come on, guys. No.
How many cows are there in Argentina? I don't know, and I don't care.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I really don't care. Jeepers. Cumulonimbus clouds. What do they do? I don't know. Either it's raining or it's not. That's all that I'm worried about in life now. Is it raining? Yes. What type of cloud? Don't care. A rain cloud. That's the type of cloud.
Will I get wet? Will I get struck by lightning? That's all you...
Exactly. Yeah. Don't stand under a tree if there's lightning.
But you see, now that we learned at school. That we learned at school and that we remember, because that's important.
But that we learned that on the field at school, not in a classroom.
When your buddy next to you got struck by lightning.
Yeah. Or you went to stand under the tree. Then they were like, yo, did you hear about Jerome? You mustn't stand under a tree anymore. Jerome, lightning hit him.
Exactly. So what did you study at Rao?
Technically nothing. but no.
Does your mom know? Because if she watches this, she's going to pull you up. You realize that?
I've mentioned it before. We've had the discussion. I'm still working on the repayment plan. We're still refunding for the wasted monies. But I literally, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I didn't know what I needed to study.
Right.
Like, a lot of my friends were like, we want to be accountants, lawyers, doctors, whatever. None of them wanted to be doctors, but accountants, lawyers, whatever. And when I sat with the application form, I literally took a pen and did that thing and then put it down. Then I was like, hey, can't be an accountant because didn't pass
numbers.
Well, try again. And then I landed on marketing communication. Yeah, which was, in hindsight, I wish I had completed, because I didn't complete it. Okay. Simply because when I got to university, so you've got to understand, growing up, my parents were I'm an only child. So my parents were very protective of me. So I wasn't, like when I said I was out partying and whatever, I wasn't out partying every weekend. Yeah. But when I got the opportunity, and it was also very confined, like my parents were very strict. Then when I got to university, I went to a couple of lectures. Then I was like, but there's nobody taking a register here. So how do they know if I'm here or not? Like, I don't have to be here. They're not even going to phone my parents. That's wonderful. And then I spent probably 3 months on the grass at Rao. They've got the most beautiful, comfortable grass if you're looking for somewhere to go and chill with your friends. It's amazing. Doesn't help you get a degree though. So eventually after 3 months, dropped out. And like I say, in hindsight, I wish I had studied, because it would have helped me so much now in the business that we're in. And I think that's a big thing that we need to focus on in schools. Is not just, because for me, it's always been a case of you're forced to learn these things, but you're not sure why. you're learning everything they're teaching you. And I think just with a little bit more understanding in terms of, like, if I'd known that marketing, because I didn't know that marketing is part of a business, I literally chose it with a pen. Whereas now it's something that I'm like, I wish I knew so much more. And I had the perfect opportunity and I wasted it. So yeah, it's a little bit cup, but I'm surviving. I've learned from that lesson, and now,
So how did the comedy come about?
Comedy, it's a weird thing. Comedy is something that I've always just enjoyed. I enjoyed watching. Like, I remember my dad watching comedy when I was still a kid, like watching, Bernie Mac, watching Eddie Murphy, the greats,
Yeah.
And it's just something that I always enjoyed. Like, the first two comedians I saw do live stand-up comedy were John Vlismus and Joey Rastin. And I used to go to the underground. Jason actually started taking me to the underground.
To Cool Runnings in Melville.
To Cool Runnings, yeah. And I remember the feeling when we knew that John was hosting or Joey was hosting, you knew it was going to be fire because audience wasn't safe. They were just going to be attacking people. And John, the first time I'd seen him, or the first time I'd ever seen live stand-up, he came to Rao, actually. And did an activation for some company and just turned the mic on, started speaking, and just pulled this crowd and just firing shots, teasing everybody. And I was blown away just by the way he was able to control the crowd, how funny he was, and everything just felt like it was off the cuff. And I had a similar experience with Joey Rastin, where he came into a club, like a club, 2 o'clock in the morning. And they turned the music off and made Joey do a set because the guys who owned the club were friends of his and they'd heard that he'd been doing comedy. And to turn the music off in a colored club at 2 o'clock in the morning and then put someone on stage, that's like throwing a target on your back and saying, cool, I'm going to the shooting range. Like, and Joey did the same thing. He just off the cuff turned the audience, not even an audience, club goers, drunken club goers, turned them around.
Who hadn't come to see comedy at all.
No, they were at the peak of their party. That's where guys were, getting into that mode now. The ladies are in a good mood. Everyone's having fun. Now the music just goes off.
It brings a whole new meaning, Nicholas. It brings a whole new meaning to dying on stage. If it hadn't worked out.
For sure. Because they wait for you outside. They'll wait. Those guys would have waited for you outside. But yeah, and then I think because of going to comedy, I was also that kid. Like, my friends always said, you should get on stage. Because I was that guy that in class, I used to make those comments that get you in trouble. I remember in English, and it was grade 8, just started high school, full long lecture throughout the first lesson, just this long lecture introducing herself and giving us all of these rules. And then at the end of the lesson, she said, okay, cool, that's the end of the lesson. I hope to see you guys tomorrow. And I said, yeah, hopefully not, but like under my breath, and everyone burst out laughing. And I spent the first week of school in detention for that. So I was that guy, just...
Yeah. A comment like that is usually followed by, did I really say that out loud?
Yes, it's exactly that. Just where you put your head down, like, because then she goes, who said, now I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
But, so, and like I was saying earlier, because I always go for the joke, it's just my natural defense. I don't know why.
Yeah.
When people are telling me a story, my brain automatically tries to find the humor in whatever the story is. Doesn't matter what the story is. I try and find the humor. I think it's my way of dealing with the world.
Yeah.
I don't always say what I think is funny, because if I had to say everything that goes on in my mind, the world, no, not in 2020, you have to.
The world might be a lot better place. I think the T-shirt, your hashtag on the T-shirt should be #TooSoon? Question mark.
Definitely. That time, tragedy plus time equals comedy. I'm like, no, there's no time like the present.
There's no time like the present.
As I heard,
You see,
No, no.
this is the
Yeah,
terrifying
it's
thing.
a very funny place. If you
I
could
hear
spend a
what
day
you,
in my head.
I hear what you're saying, Nick, and that's the problem. Because I think you and I have a similar sense of humor in as much as, you know, if I go back to 9/11, that poor guy's falling off the building. We all remember Falling Man. And
Yeah,
he hasn't even hit the ground, and I'm already thinking, hang on a second, we can turn this into part of a routine. And then in your
yeah,
brain, the filter is now, hang on, he hasn't even died yet, and you're already being funny.
exactly. And like a lot of people think it's an insensitive thing, but it's like my dad has always had this saying that if you stress, you die. If you don't
Yeah.
stress, you die. So why are you stressing?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's my thing. Like what's happened has happened. Nothing I can do is going to
Yeah,
change what's happened. There are things I'll never joke about,
yeah,
because I just don't think it's right to joke about certain things. But like you say, the guy falling from the building, it's not funny. That guy had a family, like it was a
You know,
terrible thing.
you know, Nicky's never been identified. That's the
Really?
interesting thing. Yeah, it propped up just recently, the image
Yeah.
again, and they still haven't identified him. And you'd think that there's somewhere is a family who's gone like, what happened to Bob? You know?
Yeah. Dude, I had a joke that I did about that plane that went missing, flight image
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
I had a joke where I said, a woman's bag is such a crazy thing because you find the most interesting things. Like my wife has lost her ID book in her bag, applied for a new ID, and when the new ID came, she put it into a bag and found the old ID. I'm like, they pull things out from years ago. I'm like, somewhere in the world, a woman's going to turn a bag out and a plane is going to fall out. And people are going to be like, oh, yes, flight image, whatever. And for me, it was such a funny thing. But if you consider that, like, it's a plane full of people
yeah.
who have just disappeared,
Vanished.
it's not a funny thing, but
Yeah.
to,
But
I don't know.
funny you should bring up planes, because when my dad died, pardon me, 15 or 16 years ago, I flew his ashes back from Port Elizabeth, get to the PE airport, and step up to the counter, and I put my ticket on the desk, and I say to the woman, listen, my dad's never been upgraded to business class. Do you think there's a possibility of upgrading us to business class to fly home? And she looks at me, and I said, I can see what's going on. You see one ticket, one person. Ask me where my dad is. So she goes, where is your father? I said, he's in a box in my backpack. So she says, hang on a second. And she walks off, and I see her nattering with her superior. And she comes back and she says, listen, we can upgrade your dad, but we can't upgrade you. And I thought, all right,
No concern.
well played, well played. I said, no, if I fly coach, so does he. And people have pulled me up for that. How can you be disrespectful to your father? And I said, if you knew my dad and his sense of humor, you would have realized that backpack was rocking because he was laughing. So, I hear what you're saying. There are some instances that you can and some instances that you can't. But if you know the person, then you can make the joke.
But that's always my thing. It goes back to reading the room. Know who you can do what jokes with.
Yeah.
And I think the boundaries crossed where certain people think that it's okay because you think it's funny and your friends think it's funny. Now you think you can do it anywhere at any time, but you don't know how it offends somebody else.
Yeah.
So like I've said, like I've got different relationships with all the different comedians. And like these guys that we will do racial jokes with, white guys, black guys, we'll do racial jokes because it's safe between the two of us. Like I know that we're not offending each other.
Yeah.
It's literally just the joke and it's funny. Like with some of the ladies, we have dirty sexual jokes and all this innuendo, and it works because we have an understanding and a relationship. But you have to, that understanding is for me one of the most important things, because you can't just, because the two of us find something funny doesn't mean the next person has to find it funny. And if they're offended by what we've said, we can't take offense because they've taken offense. It's a minefield. It's a minefield these days.
It is indeed. And I should imagine that when you walk out on stage and you have to read the room within the first few seconds, specifically if you're number one. If you're down the line somewhere on a gig, you let somebody else. I remember doing a gig with Cyril Green, the late Cyril Green, wonderful man that he was. And I asked him what gag he was going to do. And Cyril had one joke that he could drag out for 20 minutes. It was a predominantly Jewish joke. The audience that we had that evening was not Jewish. And I said to him, what gag are you going to do? And he said, I'm going to do that joke. I said, but Cyril, it's the wrong room. And he went, watch me. 20 minutes later, he comes off stage. The audience didn't stop laughing for the rest of the evening. And he only told one gag. He said, you see, it works. It's all in the telling. But then again, there was one guy, and I'm sure you find that as well, Nick. There's always that one guy who wants to heckle. And if there are lots of comedians, the first one will tell the second one, look, it's the second dude at the third table from the left. Got to watch him. And then the rest of the comedians pick on him for the whole night. He thinks he's part of the show. Meanwhile, he doesn't realize what irony and sarcasm are.
No, definitely. And because I love a heckler, to be honest. I love, because the thing is, when I have the mic in my hand, I have the power.
You
and
do
if the
indeed.
audience is on my side, if I've already had them laughing and you trying to come and say something or try and cut me down, the audience is already on my side. My favorite thing to do is to get the audience to go, okay, cool. So do you guys want to listen to him or do you want to listen to me? Like, who did you pay 50 Rand to come and watch this guy talk from his seat? Or, you know, and to get the audience to turn on the heckler is my favorite thing. Because the heckler, like you say, they think they're famous and they're now part of the show. But when the audience is like, actually, shut your mouth. We didn't come to listen to you. Oh, I love it.
We'll be waiting for you outside after the show.
Yeah. No, so, my favorite line was, don't let me have to make you take your, what is the word? Okay, I forgot the line now. Don't let me have to put your personality in your pocket. No. See, now it doesn't sound right. Okay. It feels different from that. Anyway, carry on.
It was funny in the moment.
It was hilarious.
What did they say? You had to
self-esteem.
Your
self-esteem, yes. I'll make you take your self-esteem and put it in your pocket, my friend. Yes, that was my line.
You're assuming that the person that's doing the heckling knows
has self-esteem. This is very true.
Talking of that, worst gigs, best gigs, which ones spring to mind and why?
Worst gigs, I'd have to say, was Parker's at Carnival City. Joe Parker's at Carnival City. Reason being, I was an open spot at the time, which meant I was driving from the West Rand all the way to Carnival City to do 5 minutes of comedy, literally 5 minutes, for no money, in a room that wasn't set up for comedy, with an audience who happened to stay behind after the cabaret show. And then they had comedy. So now they're not really a comedy audience. And to drive all that way and then die for 5 minutes on stage and then have nothing but the road to console you on your way back. Oh,
people have no idea, Nick, how long 5 minutes is when you're dying.
It's the worst. It feels like an eternity because you can just see everyone sitting and looking at you like, yeah, absolutely not interested.
You've got to follow semi-naked dancers on stage. They're not interested in you at all.
Exactly. Not even a nipple out. I'm like, guys. But the thing is, I learned so many lessons in that room. I learned a lot about just getting the audience on your side first and not relying so much on the material, but they're also reading the room and seeing, trying to explore the audience. So as much as I died every time I went there, I learned a lot. Best gig, any Wednesday comedy jam. Now Wednesday is the first gig we started, Jason and myself and Don, when we were 3 months into comedy. And everybody in the industry said to us, you can't do this. You guys don't know enough about comedy. It's not going to work. And eventually it became one of the my favorite gigs. It became my favorite gig. Like even till today, my favorite gigs to perform at was a Wednesday comedy jam, a monthly comedy gig. It came, Jason and I one night drunk after the watching comedy at the Underground, decided that we want to start a show and kind of target colored people, because we hadn't seen many colored people in any of the rooms we were performing in. And we realized that it's not because we don't want to go to comedy, it's just because they don't know that it's out there, or they don't know how to access it. And we called it a Wednesday because we had it on a Wednesday, and we made it on a Wednesday because we called it a Wednesday, because we're like aware Wednesday, and people called it Aware Wednesday for years, but it was actually just a Wednesday comedy jam. But there was just something magical about it, man. We made sure we had something crazy every show, and it had this cult following of people who just became friends, and since then have been friends. And just an amazing social experience. We had everybody, like, as much as it was kind of targeted at colored people, it eventually became just this multiracial, just happy place where people came for a good time. Not once. We ran that gig for, I think, 4 years. And not one fight broke out, not one argument, just all good times.
It's a testament to what can be done if it's done for the right reason. And you, to quote you back at you guys read the room correctly. You targeted a demographic that would work. That demographic taught other people about the comedy, who then came from their type of comedy to see your type of comedy, enjoyed it, and realized that's what comedy is all about. It's not necessarily about flinging racial slurs at each other. And if black and white happens to get mentioned from the stage, suck it up, people. Understand the context in which it's told. You're not out there shooting people like the police in America, you know.
No, that's the big thing for me, is that it's the context. And I always say, you can joke about almost anything if you do it in the right way, if your message is correct. Like it's a very thin line between offending somebody and just making a funny observation. So you can joke about race, you can, make fun. I don't do any political stuff because I don't understand politics. I don't understand it enough to joke about it. And I know that the minute you don't understand something enough to joke, when you start joking about it, it becomes very easy for you to now offend people.
Exactly.
Because you don't have full understanding.
It's like if you want to do, if you're a piano player and you want to play the piano badly to satirize something. If you're a tuck piano player, it's not going to work as satire. You've got to be an excellent piano player in order to satirize if you think back to the Victor Borgs, who would play Happy Birthday in a variety of different ways. You've got to be an excellent piano player to do that. Otherwise, it's exactly what
you've got to have a complete understanding.
Otherwise, it's a point, because otherwise, the first time a heckler says to you, you know nothing about politics, you've got to say, well, actually, you're right. I don't know why I started.
Yeah, that's true.
I've done it on air where I've been interviewing somebody. I get a thought in my head and I start to say whatever the thought is. And I realize, like 4 lines in, that if I finish this thought, it's going to be my last radio show.
David must fall.
Hashtag. And then you have to try and backpedal. It's never happened to me on stage. I've been able to sort of just go, you know what? I've had people go, yo, you run close to the wind, but we laughed. And then it's fine. I think back to when you guys had the box in Maboneng. And that was also, was an interesting audience. Wow, that was a clever room there.
You know what I loved about Maboneng is that you never knew what you were going to get. You never knew who the audience, like most comedy clubs, you can kind of tell the type of audience you're going to have. They're going to be middle-aged, white, kind of mixed race. They're going to be a full black audience. It's going to be a full colored audience. But the box, you could never tell, because we had the guys up the road who ran, what do you call this? Like a Airbnb type. I've also got something else. And they used to house it was like a backpackers where they had all these foreign students who'd come through backpacking, and they, as part of the tour, bring them to comedy on a Sunday. So we always had foreigners in the room. Like, you never knew. Sometimes it would be a full black audience or majority colored audience or majority white. It was always like you'd have to get there and then decide what you're going to be doing tonight, because you never know.
No, I remember once I performed there was a black couple in the front row, and I picked on the wife or on the girlfriend for some obscure reason. And in the beginning, the guy's eyes sort of opened, and he realized what I was doing, and he was egging me on. She kept turning to him, and he was going like, "No, go for it. You can say whatever you like to her. I don't care anymore." But the beauty there, I think, Nick, is again what we're getting back to when it comes to crossing color lines. Is after the gig, he came up to me, both of them did, and shook my hand and said, "Thanks so very much for making us part of your set," which was really, really nice, you know, for an elderly white man who wasn't quite in his comfort zone.
It is cool. And, you know, I feel like sometimes people just are looking for something to attack. They're looking for something to be wrong. And what I appreciate always about an authentic comedy audience is that there's sort of an understanding. The minute they pay that, whatever it is for a ticket, it's that an agreement to buy into what's happening. Like, we've had instances where people have come to us and said to us, "Look, this has gone too far. What was said here was too much." And in most cases, we agreed, because, you know, you have newcomers, open spots who don't really understand the thing and come in and just say the most vulgar, inappropriate things. But if you don't put them on stage, we don't know, and we can never groom and get rid of that mentality. So we have to get them on stage before we can see. There's no vetting process before you get on stage. So, but also those instances were dealt with swiftly and quickly, and we made sure where there was a problem that we also agreed with, we definitely mentioned it, because comedy is never meant, from my perspective, it's never meant to offend you. It's never meant to upset you. It's always, we make observations on everyday things, and we just like try and find the light side. I always say, like, you know how they say every cloud has a silver lining. Every situation has a funny side.
It does indeed. But getting back again to what you were saying, it's also, comedy is the only place where you get to rehearse your material in front of a live audience, because you can't rehearse it at home. You can stand in front of a mirror and try your material, and you go, "But this doesn't sound funny." And then, because it's just you talking to yourself, and then you step up in front of an audience and they fall about with laughter, and it sometimes throws you because you weren't expecting the laugh, or where you thought you were funny, you're not.
Exactly. It's it's a terrifying. It's just the most terrifying thing you can do.
Yeah, but it's the best sensation in the world when
it works, the most rewarding.
When that applause washes over you like one of those huge tube waves in Hawaii, then you know that when you walk off the stage, you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. You really are.
Yeah. When you see someone hunched over, unable to breathe, someone trying to hold their drink in their mouth because they're about to spit over the person in front of them, those are the moments that, I miss it so much, man.
Yeah. Now, what are you and by extension, Jason and Donovan currently doing to keep yourselves occupied?
Well, we've been doing so probably 4 days into the official lockdown, we started Goliath Go Live, which is a show that we've been running every day at 2 p.m. And it's just a talk show, man. It's the three of us. We have a guest on, and we have a chat with the guest, and it's pretty similar to what we're doing now, chat about how lockdown's been going. It's really unscripted, and we just want to chat to people. So we've had some of the most interesting conversations. We interviewed Miss Universe on the show, Zozabini, and we've had shows that you think are going to be hilarious have become some of the most profound, deep conversations. Shows that we've thought were not going to work because we didn't know the guest have become the most energetic, exciting, funny shows. Like, it's just been a great thing. so that's the one thing that we've been doing. We do it now weekly. Initially, we started, I think we did something like 40 episodes every single day. So
live.
Live every single day. And then we've now started doing only weekdays, so Monday to Friday at 2. And that's on skyroomlive.com. And that's been a great thing. Then we're trying to get into this landscape of virtual events with companies and trying to find ways to now do comedy online. We did our 3-man show at the end of last month. We're doing another one this month at the end of July with Skulk, Poseidon Oat, Lindy Johnson, and Sia Sia, which is also the crazy thing is that the time that we're in, nobody knows what we should be doing, how it should be working. So we're just honestly just trying to find our feet, trying to find a way to keep supporting the industry as much as we can, because comedians have taken a massive hit due to this pandemic. So we're trying to find a way where not only can we make a little bit of money, but we can try and help out some of the comedians or help someone pay some bills, you know. So we're testing the waters now, man. We've got that show coming out. We're almost on 100 episodes of our daily show, which is cool.
Wow.
And we're just keeping busy.
Are those archived, Nick? If people want to go back, have they been saved?
We've got them all.
Okay.
If you go onto skyroomlive.com, all of the shows from episode 1 are up there. And it's pretty cool, man. Like, because the more I think about it, the president said in his speech that we fix the plane as it flies. And that's exactly what the show represents, is the fixing of the plane as it flies. Like, if you look at from episode 1, what we were doing, what the content was, the setup, the way we were doing the interviews versus to now. I think we're doing episode 84 today. And it's just to see the growth and the development. And also just some of the most interesting South Africans, just good times. The whole point of the show is just to have fun and good times.
That's exactly it. I mean, this In Conversation with that I started was just to keep myself sane. I reach episode 50 this week with enough recorded to take me into the end of August, because mine don't go out live for a variety of reasons. But it's just been such a blast for me to catch up. I was just thinking just before you sort of came on screen, the last time you and I saw each other was in Melrose Arch. That's why where we swapped numbers, because you guys still had the club.
The comedy
Melrose
club
Arch,
yeah.
And that was a while ago.
That was probably almost 2 years back.
Yeah.
We're almost going on 2 years now.
Wow,
Jeez, that's insane.
Where has the time gone? I love the fact that you say it goes out weekdays, because I want to know what differentiates currently. What differentiates a weekday from a weekend? Because the days are all the same. Every time I see somebody say, okay,
that's the difference.
That's the difference.
We still wait for weekends, because homeschooling is happening right outside this door right now in German. So that's it, man.
There is comedy diamonds in that, which I won't go into now because I don't know.
You know what I love? What I love about it is that there are so many words in German that sound like a combination of English or Afrikaans words. Right. And if you directly translate, like, it just becomes... So I know a couple of phrases and I can kind of follow a conversation, because my eldest has been at the school for 7 years now.
Okay.
So I've been around. We've been around Germans now, and the German. So it's interesting, like, to see. But there's moments. I'm trying to work on some things where I can use some of the German words and translate. And
got to be careful again. Read the room properly, Nick, before you.
No, for sure. The nice thing is, I did it in Cape Town, at the Cape Town Comedy Club, because they also have big international audiences sometimes. And there's a German person in the room, and I did a joke where we spoke about the German word for sex, for the act of having sex.
Right.
is Geschlechtsverkehr.
Mm.
Geschlechtsverkehr, yeah. Which, if you say it, Geschlechtsverkehr, it sounds like you are doing something wrong, like you are geschlechtsting and you are. Anyway, but in the moment, it's one of those that in the moment you have to. It's so those are the things that I want to work on because it's just silly. My kids laugh at me. Because my eldest, my youngest, his favorite thing to do now is fart and burst out laughing. So he did it yesterday. He farts and he burst out laughing. So I said to him, "That's a große fart," because it sounds like it's a gross fart, but große means it's great. So it's a great fart. So my eldest bursts out laughing because he finds the humor in it.
I have to say that, one of the aspects of COVID-19 is, or one of the symptoms is that you lose your sense of smell and taste. So I've taken to walking around the house, farting and burping, because if I can taste what I'm burping and smell what I'm farting, then I can both, I haven't lost either sense, and then I don't have COVID-19. Who needs a thing stuck up my nose? No, I don't.
Yeah, I went for that test, I went for that test because when
it's invasive.
When the restrictions were released, I went and I was on set. I had to go and shoot something, and it was all cool because they were hooked up with sanitizer and security. Well, not security, but it was all health and safety thumbs up. But then later on found out that somebody on set had tested positive, so then we had to go and all test because we were all on the same set. And, that thing
up your nose and out your ear.
Guys, and the crazy thing is this, because they said to you, it's not painful, it's uncomfortable, but it's not painful. So I'm like, cool. There's a young lady that went ahead of me, and they put the thing in, and she was just like, and pulled it out, and it's all good. And then I went, and I don't know what that bra did when he put mine in, but I was like, I screamed. And the security, when I left, the security guard was like, you a crybaby, you. And I'm like, my nose, because my nose bleeds easily. I've always had, I don't know, the people, like my eldest has it as well. If it's too hot, you wake up in the morning, you've had a nosebleed. So my nose is very sensitive. If I hit it just a little bit too hard, it'll bleed. And this bra, when you put the thing in, it's something to my nose. And now, because the thing is, he says, cool, I'm going to put it in. As soon as I pull it out, you must put your mask back on. So I'm like, cool. So does the thing, I put my mask back on. Now it's just moisture here. And I can't see what's going on. I can't shove my hand in and touch to feel because I don't know what's on my hands. Then I was just walking around, just feeling this. And when I got home, my nose was literally bleeding. It was just full of blood. Just if you are watching, don't panic. It's not that bad for everyone. It was just me. My nose is very sensitive. Look at how big this is.
My wife's had it 3 times because she's a medical doctor and she wants to make sure she's safe. And the second time she said, "Would you like to come with me and have it?" I went, "No, unless I absolutely have to have it. I'm not going to put myself through this. I'd rather go and have another tattoo. I'm sorry."
Oh, definitely. I'll sit through hours of a tattoo for sure, any day. But not now, because now they're tattooing the corona straight into your skin. Just like, it's there forever.
Literally. Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you again. Thank you so much for being a guest on In Conversation With, and I wish you guys all the very, very best with your 2 o'clock shows. And I'm hoping that people who watch this will go from this to your show, and you'll see it in your audiences. And even once the virus has left us and we're all back to some sort of normality, that you guys will continue to do that and to entertain all of us. So thank you for that. And thanks for being a guest.
Thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate it. And thank you for being the biggest Springbok supporter in the country. Can see you have an actual Springbok.
No, that's not a Springbok. That's not a Springbok.
Is that not a Springbok?
No, it's a Vryspok.
A Vryspok, okay.
Yeah, which I didn't shoot. It was given to me as a gift.
Nice. No, I mean, sometimes there are too many Vryspok. You must be careful. You also looking like a Vryspok now.
Nick, thanks for being my guest. You take care. All the very best.
Thank you for having me, brother. Have a good day. Take it easy.
Cheers.
So